Hi, everybody. Welcome to the pre-show, the last 60 seconds in the countdown. We are doing a Zoom cocktail party today, the normal setup, and I'll display it here in a sec. We've already got Peter Selwyn down in Auckland on. Andrew Pindar, I see, is on over in beautiful Scarborough. Stingray's on, but audio only up in Seattle because he likes to keep himself, Julie, he likes to keep himself anonymous to some extent. So the Zoom cocktail party and the Dalton Dunphy back and forth continues. We'll talk about that. Super Coach John Emmett's report. But a lot of people said they wanted to come on and do an AMA, ask me anything or comment about anything. So if a handful of people show up, fine. If nobody does, fine too, as we'll get this one on the road. Thanks for joining us.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to show number 456 this Friday, the 24th of September. Not a lot going on here as Super September winds down, but we're going to talk some more about the America's Cup because it's been a week of he said, she said, and back and forth, and we've got some insider scoop about Ineos Team UK, and we are, in fact, as you can see on the slide, we're doing a Zoom cocktail party today. Decided just this morning to do this because a number of you contacted me and said, why don't we do a Zoom cocktail party and come on and chat? And if you're so inclined, I see 4 people on now. Just join. I'll show you. In fact, I'll show you the code right now. We'll lose the music. And the meeting ID, as usual, is 267-220-6570 on Zoom. 267-220-6570. The passcode is, no surprise, TFE, our normal private meeting credentials there. And I didn't put it out in advance except to a few of you who've had it before because I was told that there might be some croutons that wanted to show up and crash the party. But that's okay. If somebody is, we'll excuse them from further participation, won't we, Julia?
We will.
We're live again from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. My co-host, landlady, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia Wedekind, is here as usual, representing the St. Francis Yacht Club. And I've added that to your lower third, Julia.
Oh.
I've added Balboa Yacht Club to mine. It's probably where I spend most of my yacht racing time and sailing, weather sailing, or helping to run events down there. I'm very proud of that. Welcome all of you for the show. Again, the Zoom code. If you want to join in, there's 4 folks on now. As I mentioned, 267-220-6570. You can come and go as you please. Peter Selwyn is down in Auckland, in fact, and I'm going to go to Peter straight away because it's 8 in the morning down there, and he wants to leave and go as a sailor. Julia, you asked him, he's going to go, he's also a scuba diver. Peter, welcome. Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning to you.
And what are you going to do as a scuba diver in West Haven Marina this morning?
One of my semi-retired hobby jobs is I'm a scuba diver cleaning the bottoms of boats. So a lot of my customers are the owners of racing boats down in the marina, and they need to keep their boats clean. Given that we have not been able to clean anything for the last 6 or 7 weeks with the lockdown that we're still kind of trying to get ourselves out of, that the silt has managed to, or the slime is building up on all those boats, and I need to go and clean it off.
Now, you're a member of the squadron, and I don't want to put you in any kind of an uncomfortable situation, but what I'm hearing from both sides, and I'm talking to my old mate, I haven't talked to him this week, but, Russell Green, who is the legal beagle for ETNZ and for the squadron, a longtime friend of mine, and others connected closely to the team, as well as people with Mr. Dunphy and Hamish Ross and so on. And it sounds to me like there's still a fair bit of back and forth on News Talk ZB and also in the New Zealand Herald. Any impression you want to give us, Peter, as being there locally and not really affiliated with either side?
Look, I'm not going to comment on that at all. I obviously I see the information that comes out of the squadron, and largely that's much the same as what goes out in the press and in the public domain. So I'm not in a position to comment anything further. I don't know anything else about it other than what we all know, you know, there are clearly two sides to an argument. It would have my personal bent is to go with what TTNZ and the squadron are saying, because that's who I'm obviously more affiliated with. I've never heard anything about Mr. Dunphy before this has all happened. No reason why I should have done.
What do you think the chances are of the Cup, of the event, whenever it takes place, of it remaining in Auckland? What's your just gut feeling at this point? And if you don't care to comment, that's okay.
Look, I'm not in a position to comment really. I don't know enough about it to be able to comment.
Okay, fair enough. Julia, anything? Peter's been a regular. We see him off and on commenting, and you going on daylight, changing subjects quickly and then let you go. You're going on daylight time in New Zealand, or summertime as you call it, on this Sunday, so the day after tomorrow. Well, it's your Saturday there now.
Well, it's tonight.
Tonight, that's right. You go back from 3 a.m. to 2 a.m. Not only does everybody disagree about what day to either go on or go off, which is terribly confusing, but then whether it's at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, in Australia they go on. It's a half an hour difference in couple of the states.
Yeah, a couple of the states do. Yeah.
So we're going to announce, and I'll just clue you in. We are. Well, do you have to go now?
No, I'm good. I need to go. I just noticed I got the blinds closed behind me. It's actually a beautiful sunny day out there. I've got the other blinds out to the side of me open, and it's a hugely beautiful, gorgeous blue sky sunny day today.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming on. But you go on daylight time, summertime. So we don't go on daylight time till the first weekend in November. So for the next 4 weeks for you, it's 8 a.m., 8:08 down there now, and it will be 9:08 when we go live next Tuesday for you and all the rest of you in New Zealand. And then Australia doesn't go until the weekend after that. It's unbelievable. Well, we'll talk about that.
Aussies and New Zealand are friends, but not always.
And is it the old joke about Aussies and Kiwis, one or the other the Aussies having a chip on both shoulders, and that's why they're well balanced? Is it that?
Oh, something like that. Yeah. I mean, as far as Kiwis are concerned, is you know, we always want New Zealand to win, or anyone who's playing Australia.
Yeah, that's the way those of us who follow the University of Michigan closely, that's the way we feel about our arch rival, Ohio, particularly Ohio State University. Peter Selwyn in Auckland, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Julia's waving to you as well.
Yeah.
We'll go back.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Gordon Smith has joined.
I wasn't expecting this anyways.
Well, thank you for joining. And
you're a trooper.
Andrew Pindar came on and said, does that mean I have to get dressed? Andrew, do you want to turn your mic on and go ahead? Over to you.
Well, I can promise you that I do have bare legs, Tom.
Oh, that sounds tantalizing. You know, we had this guy, a guy called Jeffrey Toobin, who's a lawyer here on CNN here in the States, but he was doing some sort of a Zoom call and didn't realize that he was apparently on the camera, and it was being recorded, or he had his camera on.
Yeah.
Well, how'd that work, Julia? In any event, he didn't have pants on, and it was worse than that, as you may have read. He was having some self-fun and live and in color. So we hope you're okay.
I'm wearing shorts. It's been a glorious autumn day here. It's what we call an Indian summer.
Great.
So it's been shorts weather for most of this month, and long may it continue.
In beautiful Scarborough, on the other end of the planet from Peter Selwyn down in Auckland. Gordon Smith's on MOD. Who is MOD?
Monica Diaz.
Monica
Oh,
Diaz
hello.
in Spain.
Yeah.
There's Chris Gillingham in Leamington, and also Stingray, who's up in Seattle. No video yet, but we'll just carry on with the show for a second, then come to our zoo. There's a cocktail going there, too, at Chris Gillingham's place.
Oh, good.
Julie, we don't have cocktails. What are we going to do about that?
Well,
We'll get one during the seventh inning.
I was going to say exactly that. 17th.
If you do want to join us on the Zoom last minute, we just decided this. A few of you said, hey, why don't we have a Zoom cocktail party? And maybe when I think we do this in honor of Jody Shields, don't we? He was the one that he and Andrew Pindar, I think, were the ones who came up with this concept. And in fact, both of them have given us tours of their respective places. Jody down in Wanji in Australia, and Andrew at his famously cool place. Who's just joined us now? Stingray was there momentarily.
Oh, yes.
He gave us a brief look. If you want to join us, the Zoom meeting ID, as usual, is 267-220-6570, passcode TFE. That's 267-220-6570, passcode TFE. Those of you on the Zoom can see the show. We're shipping the show. How's that? We're sending the show back electronically to everybody on the Zoom. We're not just showing them a camera of us here in Studio B, but to the people on the Zoom. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes. It'll be even very, very interesting today to have you like, follow, and share with your friends who will appreciate being in.
I'm never sure what you're going to say. If you're going to demand it or command it or just, invite people to do it.
Today's an easy day. It's Friday.
Well, that's just because you and I were at the YC until late last night. And if we look a little more bleary-eyed than usual, it's true.
There's a good reason.
Well, like, follow, share, please. Thanks, Julia. Comments are welcome, too, even in replay. We appreciate the support via Patreon. Some people give us $1,000 a month. Some people give us $100 a month. Some people give us $5 or $10 a month. All of it is very much appreciated, as was the appearance on Tuesday by this gentleman, the magnificent Magnus.
Ah, yes.
Wheatley. Magnus Wheatley was on. Stimulated a lot of conversation, a lot of views for that show. Not that we're after views per se. We're more interested in having great conversation and great insight from some of the terrific people in the sport, including the people who are on so far via Zoom. Mm-hmm. We appreciate that. We'll get to them in a sec. Thanks again, Magnus, for coming on the show. Thanks also to Matty Whitfield, I had a voice recording, a telephone recording with him because he'd had dinner with us Monday night here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Terrific guy that he is. Picture's still a little red. I went back and adjusted it. Must be my camera because it was not Matt. He was not that red face sitting in the grill room here at the Beach Street Yacht Club Monday night. Matt, thank you for joining us. I'm not going to play the interview, but we'll get into the starting line now. And as I was discussing with Peter Selwyn just a minute ago, times they are a-changing. New Zealand goes on summertime on Sunday, and Australia goes on summertime the following Sunday, and then only two of the states, out in the WA, the yellow one there, does not change, nor Northern Territory, no Queensland, nor Queensland up there in the red number +10, that's +10 UTC. And they do change in Victoria and in New South Wales, in the center and the lower right, respectively. And then it's a half an hour in Victoria. Bloody hell. I don't know how people keep track of this. You all know I'm not a big fan of summertime on or off. Europe doesn't go off summertime until the end of this next month, 28th of October. And the USA, because we're saving energy, which of course doesn't happen at all. There's negligible impact on energy savings in this country, at least since air conditioning. We go off on the 7th of November. So I have an announcement and a rant. Yes. As you all know, I'm a firm believer. Julie, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it's time to boycott daylight savings time. As the kid says there in the lower right corner, he said, dude, the protest march ended an hour ago. So I don't know how our friends feel about it, but we'll get their opinions there. Jody Shields is on. Welcome, Jody. He's playing with some new doggies or kitty cats, it looks like there. Mm-hmm. But we are doing our personal boycott of daylight savings time because the cuckoo clock, spring forward, fall back, I can't keep up. Pick one and leave it. And as you all know, I could not agree more and have felt that way for some time, that it is simply time to stop the madness. Well, you see what this guy is saying. I think it's time to stop. It's not something coarse language, but we fully agree. And therefore we are announcing now that we will ourselves not change the time of this show. Henceforth, we will always air this show, AIR, not air. We'll do lots of errors, won't we? Mm-hmm. We'll do lots of erroring, but we will air at 2000 UTC going forward. We will air at 2000 UTC year around. So we will not change when we go on off daylight time in early November. We will still air at 2000 UTC. And in checking with a few of you this morning, it seemed like a good idea because when you're in your winter in Europe, then that means the show is on at 2100 Central European time. When you're in your summer in Europe, it's 2200. You stay up later anyway. But it won't be as quite as difficult time frame for you in Europe, and it'll be better year-round for those in New Zealand and Australia, I think. Tell us if you feel otherwise. We are going to keep our airtime at noon in the winter for us, 1 o'clock in the summer for us, and that's a little pain for me to get up an hour earlier and put the show together on Fridays, but in the summer rather, but no problem. So unless anybody there on the Zoom cocktail party feels strongly otherwise, chip in now if you will. Chris Gillingham, welcome. You're on your iPhone. Turn your on. Thank you. How do you feel about this? Is 2000 UTC okay for you?
Absolutely tip top, Tom.
Good.
Absolutely tip top.
Now, do we ever get to see your wife? Is Jane, isn't it?
Jane. Well, fiance. We got engaged in the summer.
Oh,
and,
congratulations.
I will get her on air. She's,
nice.
I think she's turned in. We've got a day in surgery tomorrow. So,
is she in surgery or is she a surgeon?
Podiatrist.
Podiatrist.
So we do nail surgery, like a chiropodist and podiatrist.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Julia.
Yes.
We could always use. It's nice to know these resources we have.
Indeed.
Monica Diaz is she's behind her video at the moment, and we do see Jody Shields. If anybody else wants to weigh in, thank you. But we will be going live at 2000 UTC. And you can figure that out on your own as your own time zones change, but our time zone will never change. We will stay on 2000 UTC. There's a big debate about how to pronounce that, whether that's 20 hours or 22,000. It's not 2000. We're yachties, right? That's what we'll do. So just a reminder to those of you in Kiwiville, you are going on Sunday, you're going on to summertime. So it'll be for the next, it'll be 0900 for you come next Tuesday, our start time. Enough of that. If you want to join us by Zoom once again, the Zoom.
Is there such a thing as a UTC clock?
Yeah.
That's available on
you can set any clock that you can set to different time zones.
Yeah.
They will all also have GMT/UTC. So I have the clocks here in the studio. I take the PIP out. Whoops, that put the wrong one in. I have these clocks, which are old iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, anybody has an old iPhone they want to donate to us here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, we turn them into cameras. That's an old iPhone that's a camera 4, so shooting the screen so I can point to the screen. And these are old iPhones that are 24-hour clocks. One is on San Francisco time, one London time, and one broke, so I don't have one on Auckland time, which I normally do. But you can set any of those clocks to UTC. You can do that on your Apple Watch or on any other device.
I can set the world clock on my iPhone.
Well, you can have multiples.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you want to join us via Zoom, again, the meeting code 267-220-6570, passcode TFE. Let's get into John Emmett's report filed just before we went to air. John?
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. Today I'm packing up my boat and driving up north to Sunderland, and that's given me quite a lot of think time about sailing and how we qualify for the Worlds. For me, it's quite a long trip up north, and it was quite tempting to visit the mighty Scarborough. My priority, though, was to make sure I got here in daylight hours, had time to wash the boat, and generally get prepared for the event. The qualifiers in the UK are exactly what they say on the tin. It's the events used to qualify who gets to the World Championships. After all, in something like the Ilka class, I suspect you'll get over 500 boats if everybody who wanted to go to the event could. Therefore, we have a series of qualification events, and the people who finish at the top, in other words, the top of the ladder, after a number of events are the people who get to go to that championship. And this is the fairest way to decide who gets to go. It's a problem the UK have because there's so many good sailors, but it is a nice problem to have. And I think it's the fairest way to do it, to have qualification rather than selection. And I'll try and talk about a few of these events over the coming weeks, because typically they are held in the autumn and the spring, so you have the qualification for the summer championships. This year is a little different, being an Olympic year and so many late championships, but the qualifiers remain in that period of time, which is also quite windy in the northern hemisphere. So wishing everyone a great show, and I'll try and tell you a little bit more about the selection series as it progresses.
It was Super Coach John Ehman, our regular contributor from Europe at the Sunderland Yacht Club, and he tells me that one of the events is in Oman, the Ilka somethings, and then maybe Monica knows, because Monica, one of those events is going to be in your country of Spain. Monica, you want to speak up there? We've got.
She sent a note which saying she's watching the perfect storm outside and on TV as well.
I got Chris Gillingham there full screen. Monica, you want to turn your audio on? You're muted. And then tell us. There you go. Go ahead. Can we hear you? Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Monica.
No, I didn't hear what you said from John Emmett.
Emmett told me this morning, not on that video. That was nicely produced video, by the way. He said that one of the Ilka Worlds is going to be in Spain. He couldn't remember that, or I can't remember now. He told me this. He said the sevens. In before the end of the year. Maybe John's on here and will comment. But I thought he said that the Ilka something was going to be in Spain, and then the something else was going to be in Oman. But maybe he said that's, you don't. Where are you in Spain?
I'm near Malaga.
Malaga. What a fabulous.
I'm off tomorrow to Gibraltar for the G80 Spanish World Championship.
Yeah.
And then CLGP in Cadiz.
Nice.
Anybody's coming?
I don't know if Andrew Pindar is coming. Andrew, are you going to SailGP?
I'm working on it. I've got to be in Dubai the following week for the ICOMIA World Conference, so I think I can just about squeeze the two of them in, but I haven't confirmed it yet.
John, going to be great.
John Emmett, what's going on? Did I have that right? Did you say one of those events was probably going to be in Spain?
But where?
Yeah. I don't know how good my audio is. I'm just back from a meeting and I'm only on my computer. But
just fine. We hear you loud and clear.
Ilka Sevens.
Excuse me, John. If I may just say, it's good to see you back in bed like we saw you in Japan. People miss that.
Yeah. So we've got Barcelona, and then we've got the Masters Worlds straight after that.
What week?
Well, I'm flying out on the 10th of November, so it must finish on the 10th of November.
So late November, the Masters Worlds are
sorry, the Masters Worlds, I'm flying from the 10th of November to the 21st of November, and the standard rig boys, the Ilka Sevens, will be just before that.
And are they all in Barcelona?
Well, those two championships are back to back, but the radials / Ilka Sixes are in Oman. Off the top of my head, I think the first race is 1st of December.
And will you go there to coach?
I don't know. I've just been having a meeting about that. I have no idea. That's why I'm late.
What are the COVID restrictions if you try to get to Oman or to Spain? Are things pretty open now in Europe?
For Spain,
no problem.
Say again, Monica?
For Spain, no problem. Maybe a PCR just if you come with a flight. If you fly, a test maybe, but we are now okay. No problems at all.
Well, that's good. Okay, anything else to add, John?
No, so I've literally joined the show 2 minutes ago. I tuned in and I just saw me doing my little bit. So I've missed everything else other than that, I'm afraid.
Hey, that was a pretty fancy report. You put some music behind it. I'm not sure what I thought of the music.
I tried to get a road sign for Andrew showing Scarborough, but it only showed York. And I also tried to get a road sign that said something like, I've got it on my phone, welcome to Sunderland, home of the tall ships race or something. But I was too slow to press record. So I have got it, and I put it on the video, and then I deleted it because I thought everyone's just going to think it's another shot of road, and you only need so many shots of road.
Well, but that was pretty good because you were there's some production value in that video. It's not just you sitting in front of your camera and talking into your mic. You really put some real effort into that. I failed the
intelligence test and left all my mics and everything at home. But the plan was to show it, lovely and sunny in Weymouth, and then it did start raining when you got to that shot where it says the north. It did start raining at that point. But actually, when I got to Sunderland, it was actually far better weather than where I left in windy Weymouth.
Well, I'm rolling the video now, and maybe we'll see some more of that. Tell us what's going there. There's some of the B-roll, as we call that, and is that Sunderland Yacht Club as well?
No. If you look in the background, you'll see the Olympic Lings. That's Weymouth.
Oh, so you were still in Weymouth at that point.
Yeah, I did it on purpose to see if anybody had commented that I forgot to tie the boat on at that point.
Now, where did you get this music?
Exactly.
Well, they play this music that's in the background.
To qualify, you get to the world championship.
Oh man, you YouTubers, you're all the same now. You're just like all the other kids.
Otherwise, you post a video, and then somebody disputes the rights, and your video disappears.
Exactly right. So you got to go get some of that rights-free music.
Yeah. So that just seemed the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, Monica, there's your answer. If you heard that, it sounds like there's some serious laser racing in Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah, maybe because beginning of November, it's GC 32 in Murcia. It's a final, so I will try to be there.
Okay, but
it's a very nice place to go foiling because it's a very flat sea, Mar Menor. It's like a lake, so it will be good.
Well, speaking of lakes, maybe we can get Jody to turn his mic on. He's giving us a tour. He's outside of something. It looked like Wanji, maybe Sailing Club or something. Jody, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How are we all?
Better now that you're here.
The sun's just rising on a Saturday morning here in Australia, and I've got to go to bloody work.
Oh.
Horrible.
What was the shot of a brick building that said Wanji something on it just a minute ago?
This is the famous Wanji Sailing Club, home of the dual Olympian silver gold medalist Nathan and Goobs. This is where we all started. The club was built back in '83. And you can see why we're alcoholics, because the club's there, and the RSL's right there. Then you got a pub across the road. So we just had to go out here, go sailing straight from the front. Here's this beautiful Lake Macquarie if you've never been here. Belmont Yacht Club way over to the east over there, and this is where we do our stuff.
Now turn your phone from TikTok vertical to a horizontal and see what we get. Probably mess
that
it.
way.
Okay, it won't go widescreen for us. Okay, well, I have a video. I didn't put it in the show, but it was sent to me by Mark Husted this morning, of you in 2019 with Sue Ellen. And you got off, you were doing some commentary, and then you hopped onto, it was very impressive, a moth and got foiling straight away. Do you remember that?
That was on a wasp.
Oh, it was a wasp, that's right.
Yeah, I used to race my moth, but I've never been on a wasp, and they're a tricky little bugger to get used to, because the tiller's got to go around the back of the main sheet bridle. So when I jibed, I completely stuffed it up. But anyway, that was pretty cool.
That's a gorgeous morning. Well, you looked impressive on the wasp back in 2019. Is the wasp easier or more difficult to sail than the moth to get foiling and so on?
I don't know. They're pretty similar. I think the wasp's a lot harder to maneuver because of the way you got to put your tiller around the back of the bridle, and when you're jibing and all that sort of stuff, it's not as easy as just going through the middle. But yeah, they're both pretty cool. That video I sent you the other day of me foiling on the wing foil, that was literally straight out the front here.
Nice.
So that video was taken off that jetty right there, and then I was out here and had a nice little nor'easter blowing. And
well, show us your face now, just so we can, if you're willing and able, just so we
everybody get ready. Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we are.
Hey, Jody, did you see Magnus Wheatley's column, I guess it was yesterday, talking about wing foils versus kiting and saying what a screw up the world sailing had made by going to kites instead of wing foils?
Yeah, I did. It's interesting. The boys from Barkarati brought it up about probably 4 weeks ago, I guess, that they said the same thing. Barkarati is just another podcast that a couple of 3 Aussie lads run. That's that Barkarati beer that Andrew always gets into. But
yeah, but it's hugely. You say it's just another podcast. It's, along with Shirley Robertson's, probably the 2 most popular podcasts in the sport. It's very well done. I know Andrew Pindar's a big fan.
Yeah, Andrew loves the beer. Me and Andrew have a few things in common. We like beer. He's rich, I'm poor. So that's pretty much what we've got in common. But yeah, so they said the same thing, that the wing foils are the future, and that the kiteboarding is if the kiteboarding was in the Olympics in this go around, it was probably relevant. But for it to be in the next one, it's going to be 3-4 years out of touch, and I think they've dropped the ball there. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Julia, that's certainly the case here in San Francisco Bay. And just in a matter of weeks, the wing foils have completely taken over, and there's a lot of used kite gear for sale now, or so we hear.
Yeah, it's true.
I think just the ease of the wing, I can be rigged mine in about 10 minutes and be on the water. And you don't. Here we've got some decent area to launch kites from, but you don't need. You need sort of 20, 30, 40 foot of area to launch a kite from, and you've got trees up here that you can get caught your kite gear on, and then you need to get out there and not get tangled. And when you come back, you got to drop your kite. So that's all a pain in the butt to try and do. But when you're wing foiling, you literally, you can launch from anywhere. You just throw it together and go straight off a foreshore and get out deep enough, and then you're on.
And so, sadly, Marcus Schwentner will, he will not be amused. But there's also been a fair few number of injuries in the kite foils, and it's a scary thing. Did you want to say something, Monica? The camera shot it because your mic's on, so when you touch your desk or something, it's on. It's video follow audio is how it's set up right now.
It's getting very, very popular in Spain too. It's everywhere.
Kite foiling.
It's a very special place here. It's Tarifa.
Yeah.
You know Tarifa?
Yeah, I've been there. I've been down there when we lived in Valencia. My neighbor and good friend Nicolo Porzio used to go down there and kite, and I'd go down there.
It's a very popular place to do it. It's now very popular. I think it's the future, whether we like it or not.
Kiting or
foils in tailing is
kiting or wing foiling?
Both.
Both.
But now kite with foils.
Yeah, kite foiling.
Yeah.
Jody, you've got to go to work. Let me go back to you. And
I'll just tell you a little story. I've had one go at a kiteboarding, and it was right here. There's a mad nor'easter blowing, so I was coming in here, and a whole heap of my mates come done a downwinder from right over there is the entrance to the lake, and there's like a sand island sort of area up over here. Anyway,
what are you pointing? Are you pointing east now? It looks like
east.
Yeah,
that's east, direct out here. There's the sun coming up. So that's over there. It's called Swansea and Belmont, and the headland is Swansea. That's where the channel is that feeds the lake. So it's a saltwater lake, obviously. But I had a go at a kite once. So I put the harness on, stood right there, and the guy was telling me how to do it. Pull left, go left, pull right, go right, pull down to get powered up. And me being me, I pulled it straight on, powered straight up, and went up, came down.
Ooh.
And they were yelling at me to let go. And then I got dragged over towards the jetty here. My kite ended up on the other side of the jetty. I ended up face first in the mud here. and the boys had to run over and jump on the kite, otherwise it was going to drag me through the trees. That was the only time I've ever had to go on kiteboarding.
Hey, before you run, what? It's a beautiful Saturday morning there. What is it? 6:36 in the morning.
Yeah, about 20 to 7. So beautiful. Weather's been quite nice here. And we're coming into summer, which is our spring season. Sailing should be started now because of bloody COVID and the stupid lockdowns we've got here at the moment, where we can't do anything. So the place is a bit quiet.
How much longer are you locked down, do you think? I heard some reports that you're going to be locked down until after the new year, and I see that people are getting, the Aussies are, there's all sorts of talk about, serious civil unrest. Do you think that'll come to pass, or what's going to happen?
It's happened in Melbourne. There's been some protests down there, and it's all getting a bit ugly, mate. People are getting a little bit sick and tired of the constant changing of the goalposts, and they said we'll get some freedom at 60% vaccinated. Now they're talking 70%, 80%, 90%. It just keeps moving, mate, and people aren't real happy about it. But that's politics. We can bash on about politics all day. And
give us your mug. Yeah. Put your mug back on the air here so we can see you. That's and then yeah, I saw your post on Facebook, and a lot of people, there's Monica. Monica, mute your mic, would you please? Monica, mute your mic, and then the video won't follow your audio when you tap your desk or something. Thanks. When you're ready to talk, go ahead and unmute it and then start talking, and the video will go to you. A couple other questions, Jody, and I wanted to see Jody's. Go ahead and say something, Jody, so the video follows you back. There we go. Hey, I'm getting word out of Europe. In fact, this morning, there's a fair bit of discussion about slingers, about Tom Slingsby and Nathan maybe joining Ineos, what used to be Ineos Team UK. I'm going to report later in the show. They've rebranded as Ineos Britannica with Rita in red, Ineos Britannica. And talking with our friend, well, I won't say who, but apparently, there's going to be a big announcement on October 4th at Brackley at their F1 facility. That is, the Ineos owns a quarter of the Mercedes F1 team. What are you hearing about your neighbor, Nathan Otteridge, or your fellow countryman, Tom Slingsby, maybe going with that team?
To be honest, mate, I haven't heard a thing. And that's been true. I haven't sort of been in contact with the boys too much of late because they're overseas whooping it up and I'm stuck here, so it's pretty hard to get excited with what they're doing. Look, if that's the case, and there's no reason why you wouldn't. Like, I mean, they're two of the best in the world, and having those pair on board would be a big plus for Ben. It'd be a huge plus because they've already got Goobs, they've already got Parko. So once again, Australian sailors are just taking over the world, and unfortunately, we don't have a mega billionaire that wants to throw money at an America's Cup team. So,
okay, so
this is our local drinking hole. You can see looks like an abandoned bloody hut at the moment because there's just nothing happening. But they're doing a bit of renovation work to it.
And that's within walking distance of the Wanji Sailing Club.
Yeah, we sit there. The sailing club's just over there, and then we look up the lake. So this is why we like beer here. It's pretty hard not to enjoy it. But anyway,
you're going to take. I don't know. My mother's watching. She so loves Peter Stevenson, Pedro Foiling Sailor, your good mate, and the tours that you have done. He's done, and then you've done with him. But you're going to, I think, eclipse him, Julia. Look at this walkabout we're getting with.
Yeah.
Hey, one other question while I'm thinking about it. It's the Christchurch, New Zealand Sail GP has been canceled now once and for all, and there's a fair bit of speculation that the Sydney event will maybe also suffer the same COVID-related fate. What are you thinking?
I actually spoke to Russell not long ago about some other issues, and he's pretty confident Sydney's going to go ahead. I think the government's pretty keen. It's just before Christmas, which will be about a month after we so-called reopen. And I think they're pretty keen to sort of get some events happening fairly soon. We don't have any issues with quarantine like New Zealand do. That's why New Zealand got cancelled, because their MIQ spaces. They couldn't guarantee spaces for everyone to go there. So
right, I guess that lottery there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was something like 30,000 applications for 3,000 space. Is that right? Order of magnitude. They actually
but in Australia, you just hook up in a hotel. They're actually talking now of trialing home quarantine. They just have the police come knocking on your door, check to see that you're doing the right thing every day and all that sort of stuff. So getting the everybody here won't be a problem, and I think the government really needs to start whacking on some events to make, even though it's only a sailing event in the grand scheme of things, it's not everybody's cup of tea here in New South Wales, but it's an international event, and it'd be good to get it on just before Christmas. It might sort of lighten the load a bit.
No, for sure. We're also, anyway. I don't know if you saw on Scuttlebutt, Taylor Canfield's dad, Bill Canfield, the president of the Virgin Islands Sailing Association, wrote a piece that I'm going to run under Corrector Crutonic. In fact, under your, this is, do you know that baby? I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but I'm an ETNP. But the Corrector Crutonic with that theme song that you turned us on to, sadly, Baby Shark, has had some like 10 billion views on YouTube. Did we lose Jody? He lost his video.
The song.
The song, Baby Shark, 10 billion views on YouTube. It's unbelievable. But I'm going to run on Correct and Crutonic. I'm going to run this thing with Bill Winfield, who had a couple of, I don't know if you saw it. I think he ran it. He sent it to Craig Lewick at Scuttlebutt, but I'm going to run it too. And if you've got to go to work, but have a look and replay and let me know what you think of his suggestions. He's got a couple because you've been pretty close to Sail GP.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed that it happens, mate, and we get a bit of love in our life at the moment because it's pretty dour down here. A lot of people are struggling a bit with this whole shenanigans that's going on, for want of a better term. But anyway,
well, good luck with that. Julia, anything for before we let Jody go?
Not really. Enjoy your summer about to begin.
I'm looking forward to it. I need to drop about 20 kilos off my big fat rotundurous belly, so hopefully the wingding will let me do it and get out here and enjoy this beautiful lake we got. Pretty spoiled here.
Yes,
you sure are. It's beautiful. Thanks for the look around, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good cracker. I'll see you soon, eh?
Thanks, Jody.
Bye now.
Ciao.
Bye.
Okay, let's anybody on the Zoom call, we've got a cocktail party going. If you want to join the Zoom call, Zoom meeting ID 267-220-6570, passcode is TFE, and who wanted to chime in?
Hi, hello everybody.
Hi, Gordon.
Smith.
How are you, Gordon?
Hi, we're very good here. I just, there was a couple of topics that came up which I thought were kind of interesting. One of which is I have a kind of a natural interest in the time zones, as some of you may know, I'm a part of a family business, a sixth-generation clockmaking business.
Oh.
And our office in Derby, the centre of the world, used to be home to a gentleman called John Flamsteed and another gentleman called John Whitehurst. And they're two kind of interesting guys. But John Flamsteed, of course, was the first astronomer royal. And when it came to establishing the Royal Observatory, he actually wanted it to be in Derby, in a piece of land just the other side from our office, because Derby's on top of a hill. In fact, it's the highest point.
But tell us where Derby is in relation to a famous place like Scarborough.
Well, no, it's actually right in the middle of England. It's about 50 miles north of Birmingham. And in fact, close to Derby, it's the furthest point from the sea in England.
Well, what's your view on daylight savings time, on summertime?
Well, my family business actually goes around about 2,500 public clocks in the UK and changes the clocks from summer to winter time and winter to summertime. So I kind of have a view that it's a great idea.
This is an annuity. You go around.
Well, we're skilled clockmakers and they like to take care of the clocks. It's also a good time to adjust a lot of clocks, do some repairs, do some servicing. So it has meaning for a lot of people.
Well, it's also here in the U.S. they use it as a reminder to change. What is it, Julia? To change your batteries in your smoke alarms.
Yeah.
And that's what. Do you do that? You're in Denmark. Is that a reminder there?
Not particularly. It's not quite the same focus, although there are a lot of public clocks in Denmark. It's not a discussion point. People don't get quite so excited about it as you do, Tom.
Boy, I do get excited. You're right.
But I was just going to say that the fun thing about, though, that Flamsteed is when he was appointed to Astronomer Royal, he had an argument with the king and a couple of ministers because he wanted to build the observatory in Derby, and then the king basically said, "Do you want the job or not? I've just built this thing in Greenwich."
In Greenwich,
so
right.
he had to drag his family all the way down to Greenwich. But the other thing I was going to mention about, which was listening to Jody, was this topic of kite foiling and board. We were on holiday this summer on the west coast of Denmark. And Denmark, as someone may know, is one of the flattest countries in the world. It's remarkably flat. And so I walked into the car park by the beach to take a nice walk on the beach. And I noticed there was a van there, and it's the Swiss paragliding school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this point, I'm thinking to myself, paragliding, isn't that a thing you need a mountain to jump off? I'm like,
yeah.
What are they doing on the flattest place on the planet? So we come up, there is a point to this story. You come up over the sand dunes, which are probably 25, 30 meters high, and two sites meteorized, one of which is the sea is full of kite foilers. It is stuffed with them. And they must have had a competition or something, and there's an area of water behind the coast, which is very large at White Sands as well, and that's also very full of kites. And then also they got these guys in paragliders.
Yes.
And what you suddenly realize that the Swiss paragliding school is teaching people to paraglide by getting them to take off from the top of the sand dune, and the wind blows up the sand dune and provides enough draft so they can learn to paraglide. And if the worst comes to the worst, they just drop about 25 meters into the sand. So actually, if you want to learn to paraglide, you don't want to do it off a mountain. You want to do it off a
sand dune.
Smaller sand dune. So it was kind of a strange sight to see the Swiss paragliding school on the flattest country in the world.
Gordon Smith, a regular viewer of our show and a commentor. Is that the right word, Julia? Commentor.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If I may ask, comment something. It's 22:48 there. You heard us say we're going to leave the show at 2000 UTC, so it'll be 2100 for you in Europe on the continent. In your winter, it'll be 2200 in your summer. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, I think it should be fine. Yes, it'll be fine. I remember some years ago there was a slightly strange project which was supported by a number of IT guys, and they wanted to have a universal watch. And their idea was that the day would be divided into 100 segments.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it doesn't take you long to think about it. It's not actually a very clever system.
No, it's not.
Right. It's interesting enough, though, the French, of course, during the French Revolution, they invented a citizen's time. And my business actually built a clock for a university, I don't know the precise name of the university in Oslo. And we built them a clock where the day was divided into 10 hours and everything was divided by 10. But
okay, so here's what we need. I'm going to take we need right over here, someplace in the studio, maybe above where Julia's sitting. We need a fancy clock from your clock company that has Royal, maybe we have Wanji Sailing Club, and then Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, and then maybe the Beach Street Yacht Club, and then maybe, I don't know, someplace in these.
At this moment, I was wishing our clocks were as cheap as a coffee mug.
And then, we need some. Well, Pindar gave us a coffee mug, and
Yeah, one moment.
Julia, I don't think I made much progress getting.
Oh, he heard you.
Oh, he heard me. Here he comes back. Yep, the Pindar.
Oh, yes.
The ubiquitous Pindar mug. Hey, may I ask you one last question? Gordon Smith, who's in Denmark outside. Are you in Copenhagen or just outside Copenhagen?
About 6 kilometers to the north, next to the Royal Forest.
Nice.
But not far from the coast.
But I just asked you a question. Since this is a cocktail party and since it is 22:50 there, what are you drinking?
I'm about to crack open a bottle of nice Riesling. Because of our location to Germany, we've actually got rather a nice selection of German wines in the local wine stores. So I'm Admittedly, it's screw cap, but hey, it should be very nice.
Well, I didn't ask Monica, and we didn't ask Jody, but I'm sure if Jody was drinking, he's probably having one of his beers in the morning. Thanks, Gordon. Thank you very much, and we'll come back to you in due course, and we'll go up to the rest of the gang. Stingray is still out of. He's not. He came on briefly. I think.
Yeah, he did.
But let's do this day in history, shall we? As we move forward with our Zoom cocktail party, it's a lot of fun to catch up with our FOSI.
It's fun to see everybody.
Various corners of the world.
Yeah. And
this day in history is well, at least it was here in the Bay Area, both the 24th and the 25th of September. It's the 25th down under, 24th here. Do you know what happened, Julia, on this day in 2013?
Well, it's got to be an AC Cup victory.
It is. Well, the 24th, here's your one clue. Now, that's an interesting angle. We don't often see that angle.
Yeah, from
that's Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, right.
Looking back to the city, but you know which bridge that is?
The Bay Bridge.
Are you sure?
Oh. No. No, it's not.
In any event, there is a race. There were two races today, both of which were won by Utc, Oracle Team USA, to tie the series up at 8-8 on this day on the 24th. And then on the 25th, here's your other clue. You all know what happened.
Yes.
Jimmy Spithill, that famously good Australian-American Italian sailor, brought the team back to win. The final day of the 34th America's Cup brought only the third winner-takes-all match in Cup history. Previous such matches had occurred in 1920 and 1983. The other two, well, along with 34, those were the three previous really closely fought matches until 2013. Barker and Spithill had also both moved into the top 5 on this final day of all-time America's Cup skippers during this regatta in terms of the number of races sailed and the number of wins for both of them. Team New Zealand had port entry on the final race on the 25th and were able to convert this into a lured position at the start line and lead around. People forget TNZ were leading this race. Oracle had a moment where both bows dipped into the water, slowing them to open some separation between the two boats. The first downwind leg saw both boats foiling at around 40 knots, at times well within 100 meters of each other. TNZ took the lead into the upwind third leg, but were unable to hold it. Oracle once again showed their upwind foiling ability and were able to pass, well, I wouldn't say with ease. This is what Wikipedia, whoever wrote this piece for Wikipedia, but they were able to pass. Team New Zealand and Barker refused to give up. But in the absence of any mistakes from Oracle, they confirmed their victory 9-8 by 44 seconds on the line to the cheers of the crowd. And I stopped writing Norbert Byron's concession speech.
I know.
The Commodore of the Golden Gate Yacht Club.
I was there.
You were helping me write it. I was checking the grammar with you, probably. Here's believe it or not, mainstream media may have picked this up more than anything else that's happened in a long, long time in the America's Cup. The Wall Street Journal, our local papers, needless to say here, papers in the UK were claiming this win for the UK because the tactician, of course, and he has won the Cups. People forget that Sir Ben Ainslie, Julia, has won the Cup as the tactician aboard Utc, Oracle Team USA, here in San Francisco 2013. But do you know who this lady is? Unbelievable. The Los Angeles Times even covered it, and you know how they do not like to cover things about the national rivalry, but watch this quick report from the LA Times.
I'm Sarah Hashimoris in the Los Angeles Times newsroom. Oracle Team USA won the America's Cup in San Francisco on Wednesday, defeating challenger Emirates Team New Zealand by just 44 seconds in a dramatic winner-take-all 19th race. The win, Oracle Team's second, is being seen as one of the most epic comebacks in 162 years of America's Cup yacht racing. The defending team tied the contest at 8-8 on Tuesday. A week ago, Oracle Team, bankrolled by software billionaire Larry Ellison, was down by 7 points to New Zealand and just one defeat away from losing. Though it looked hopeless, 35-year-old Oracle Team skipper Jimmy Spithill had high hopes for a comeback. After replacing its tactician and making some alterations to its boat that improved its speed, Oracle Team USA won 7 races in a row to force Wednesday's showdown. This America's Cup tournament has gone on for 19 days, the longest in history.
And we forget that too, because there were actually 2 more races.
Yes.
Because Oracle actually had to win 11 races, right?
Right.
Because of the 2-point deficit they went into the series with because of the penalty from the jury.
Right.
So that's what happened on this day in history. These days, the 24th and 25th in 2013, Oracle pulls off a stunning comeback. Headlines all over the country. Jimmy Spithill went on to the late-night television shows here and abroad on this day in history and the days following. And, of course, this was an interesting headline the next day on KPIX, Julie, your favorite local television station.
Yes.
That you watch every morning along with the other Marxist socialists here in, did I say that here?
No, and it's not true either.
Larry Ellison says he wants to keep the America's Cup in San Francisco. For much of the finals, it seemed all but certain the next America's Cup would be contested in New Zealand. After Oracle Team USA's stunning comeback Wednesday, organizers declared the regatta a success, and it went on to say they wanted to run the next one once again.
And they should have.
Here in San Francisco, and of course they didn't.
Nope.
And as you all know, they went to Bermuda and then lost. And I still assert that if Grant Dalton and ETNZ and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron do the same thing, it actually decreases their chances of retaining the cup, notwithstanding what Mr. Dalton says. And if I'll go to our panel and see if anybody wants to argue with me or support that concept. Gordon or John, or any of you want to comment on that? Maybe we go to Christopher, because you haven't had much to say so far.
I haven't. I've just been keeping my powder dry. But I'm actually, Gordon is a fellow Derbyshire. He's Derbyshire. I'm from Loughborough in Leicestershire originally, which is also slap bang in the middle of the United Kingdom. So it was my hometown.
Did you know Gordon before the show, before these shows?
No. It's a big country, but it's a nice part of the country up there. Beautiful countryside.
I have to say, I went to Loughborough University for 5 years, and that was probably the best 5 years of my life.
Where did you go, John?
Loughborough.
Loughborough. What were you reading?
Chemical engineering.
Oh, wow. Gosh. And you used to sail at Rutland Water.
Yeah, the number of Olympic medals from people who went to Loughborough University is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
Carry on, Chris.
I learned to sail on, partly learned to sail on Rutland Water, and I was introduced as a very novice young sailor to sailing fireballs there, and it was a disaster, to be honest. Too many bits of string.
It was a disaster. It was a disaster sailing there or sailing fireballs.
You shouldn't introduce someone to sailing on a fireball.
Well,
that would be my summary.
Fireball was maybe my favorite boat of all time. I campaigned a Fireball for quite some time here in the U.S. prior, when we weren't sure if the Olympics were going to be this is leading up to the 76 games, whether they're going to choose the Fireball or the 470. Those were the 2 boats. Christopher Gillingham, may I ask you the same thing that we were asking the others? Are you having a cocktail there where it's in Leamington? It's what, 21, almost 2,200 there.
21. I've just finished my first glass of little Chilean red there. It's Cabernet.
Nice.
Chile.
The Chilean reds are great.
So,
first glass.
First glass. I may even manage a second one.
Good.
I may have gone to pause and raise the second glass.
John Emmett, John Emmett, what are you drinking at our cocktail party? Our kind of not makeshift, but where's Emmett?
Failing, I'm afraid. Very, very out of character.
How long were you on the water? How long were you on the water today?
No, I was just spent most of my day in the car driving.
Oh, indeed. Okay, well, you don't have a cocktail, so for our cocktail party, I'm hurt. Not really. If you are,
short notice.
Well, it was, and as I said, in talking with a number of people this morning, they said, "Why don't you do a cocktail party?" And then we can have. This is so much fun to hear people, their local take on things, and let's carry on here. If you do want to, go ahead.
Sorry, Tom. I was just going to. I noticed a couple of comments in the comment section about a couple of books to do with longitude. Here's an excellent book by a lady called Dava Sobel.
Dava Sobel, yeah.
Yeah, and I can thoroughly recommend this book. It's not a big read, but it entirely sort of explains the history of Harrison's clocks and the Worshipful Company of Clockmakers in London, actually, and I think their collection is now at the Industrial Museum, actually have his H5 clock, which is the watch, which was actually certified and met the the Navy's competition for an accurate timekeeper.
What kind of a watch? What kind of a watch, Gordon, do you wear?
Well, actually, this is an antique watch which I bought not really for very much money, and I will show you. It's a very unusual watch. It's
Is it a Swiss watch? Is it a British watch? Is it an Apple watch? Doesn't sound like it.
In this case, it's a Swiss watch. It's called the Jaeger LeCoultre, but can you see something that's missing from it?
Not really.
There's no winding step.
Oh.
There's no way of setting the time.
So
this watch was made in about 1951. And
so how do you set the time?
Well, there's a little button on the back, and you slide it to one side and adjust the time, and then you slide it back again.
Oh my
but the watch, there's no way to wind it. It actually has its own energy reserve.
Yeah.
And you actually you wind it by wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's just enough energy reserve.
Yep.
To kick-start it, so you don't have to wind it. It's an extremely clever. But I bought it really for a very modest amount of money. I mean.
Yeah,
really.
I think we've all had self-winding watches. In fact.
But not like this one, Tom.
Oh yeah.
That's true. That's very interesting. Yeah.
So Julia is one of the few people I know who wears two watches. Julia, hold your watches.
I do.
There.
I have a piece of jewelry.
Hold it up so we can see it in your. Yeah.
Which is my watch, and then I have an.
What's that watch worth? That's a fancy watch on your right hand.
It is.
How much? You were complaining about mine being worth a lot of money, and it's not.
Well.
What's your Apple Watch worth?
Right now it's worth about $50, but
and you're about to replace it.
But it'll cost about $350 to replace to get the new one.
Dick Tracy watch.
Yes, but I've always wanted one, but anyway, this is an appliance because it does everything.
So, I would mention, although this is quite an expensive sounding brand, I actually paid less for this than it would have been to buy an Apple Watch. So that's, I'm not.
Yeah.
It wasn't a foolish purchase, let's say. But there was two other little books I wanted to show you very quickly. One of which there is a larger book, which let's say is more academic, heavyweight reading, and I've never read it. Full stop. I took one look at it, and it was too big. But the other guy I mentioned, John Whitehurst, whose house John Flamsteed was living in, I could strongly recommend people who got an interest in the development of the industrial society and the Enlightenment to try looking up at the Lunar Society. And it actually is related to Loughborough and to Erasmus Darwin and a bunch of other guys. And there was a bunch of thinkers and investors who used to meet in Birmingham on the night of the full moon so they could travel safely by the roads.
I won't tell you what we do here at the Beach Street Yacht Club on the night of the full moon.
Why not? But they're a very interesting bunch of guys, and they were all these guys like Whitehurst and Flamsteed. They were all absolutely the men of the moment for creating modern society, and it's the Lunar Society is a very interesting thing to read up on.
Gordon Smith, we're holding out. We're holding out for a little clock here in the studio that's got 4 or 5 time zones on it, so I don't have to use my electronic stuff.
My challenge would be, for example, that we built the largest pendulum clock in the world in China, and I can't pronounce the name of the town, I apologize, and it's in the Guinness Book of Records, but the dials, just to give you an idea of how big the clock is, the dials are almost exactly the diameter of Big Ben's dials.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Julia?
I have my automatic.
Move it to there you go. Move it. Hold it right up to your camera.
So I
hold it right up here. There you go.
I know exactly what time it is in the cities that we deal with most. So
I do it by +9 to Central Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's push on here. If you're just joining us for show number 456, we're about an hour in. On Friday the 24th, we're having a Zoom cocktail party. If you want to join that cocktail party and just comment, we've had people on from Spain and then Australia and the UK and Denmark and where else have I missed any?
Yeah.
And it's always a lot of fun to catch up with our friends, our FOSI, as we call them, the Friends of Sailing Illustrated, especially on a day when Julia and I have been late at the YC last night. Julia, any comments that we're not paying much attention to the comments on the phone because we have our
no, because I think people are listening and not writing.
Okay, if you want to join the Zoom cocktail party, 267-220-6570. The passcode is TFE. And of course, as always, we appreciate people not using coarse language or making cretonic comments, meaning name calling or personal attacks. We just don't. No one tolerates that, and we never have that on here.
No, we don't really.
We're really appreciative of our FOSI. While I'm leaving on this day in history, I would be remiss, Julie, if I didn't mention that tomorrow is the 29th birthday, yes, 29th birthday, of daughter Meg, my daughter Meg Ehman. She will be turning 29 tomorrow, the 25th. Her birthday, we celebrate her birthday with the win here in 2013. Shall we get on with a cup? There's not a lot to report, frankly. We had Peter Selwyn on at the top of the show from New Zealand. I don't think I mentioned New Zealand. The AP, Associated Press, the postponement signal, as we call it in our sport, the AP signal is still displayed at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. And I heard this morning now that they, contrary to what Magnus Wheatley asserted on this show on Tuesday, he thought that they'd have a venue decision in a matter of days. I don't think that's at all correct. I said I'd be weeks or months, and I heard today it's now probably not going to come till mid-November.
No kidding.
And part of the pushback on that is, and it's understandable, is that with no protocol, with no terms of reference for the next event published, at least in maybe not in fine detail, but at least the big picture, how can a venue really finalize a proposal if they don't know the how, who, what, when, where, and why? And we'll talk some more about that, but let's carry on because just to recap, Valencia, who said they were out, now Grant Dalton says he's getting on his horse and his plane, his Emirates airline, presumably, and going and visiting these venues himself. He can't get back into New Zealand because of perhaps because of the problem with the quarantine coming back in, and whether he gets a place in that lottery. You heard us say earlier, it's something 3,000 people applying for 30,000 slots in their lottery to get back into the country. But apparently Valencia is, I've talked to Niccolo Porzio. He says no chance that Valencia's back in the game and will not be back in the game. He's under an NDA, so wouldn't say much and didn't say much. But he's also confirming what I'm hearing is that Monica Diaz, I don't know, Monica's still on. The rest of Spain, the chances of this happening in Spain are next to zero. And the interesting thing is that these venues like Spain and, of course, Cork, Ireland, this controversy down in New Zealand, which I think Mr. Dalton in the RNZ was hoping would strengthen a bid from one of these other venues, are saying, hey, if they're having this back and forth and these problems in New Zealand, that, is maybe throwing some cold water on us, our thinking about whether we ought to host it in Valencia, in Cork, in Barcelona, wherever else. This is ORK is their airport code in Cork. And of course, Jeddah, as you heard Magnus say on Tuesday, has also gone quiet. Jeddah in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, KSA. And they apparently have the money, but they're also realizing that maybe this event is, or someone hears from a couple of, not Saudi friends, but from people who are very closely dialed in to Saudi Arabia, have worked there in the past, know lots of people in the leadership there in Jeddah, J-E-D. And I still think, despite a lot of the European media saying, and actually almost with glee, saying this week after the back and forth between Dalton Dunphy, Hamish Ross, the squadron, and we're going to play some of that for you in a sec. And the European sailing media is saying, okay, that's it. Going to be in Europe. Maybe we're not nowhere, but it's not going to be in Auckland. This is end. I don't think that's it at all. I think Auckland is a stronger possible venue than ever, and because I think people in New Zealand are starting to wake up, ironically, to this now that this back and forth has happened this week. They're saying, oh, really? They're serious about taking this offshore? We can't have this event go offshore. Why are they doing that? Who's paying for this? Where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
Who owns the team? And Julia, I think you've heard some of the
Yes.
phone conversations, and I think there's a fair bit of back and forth. And I do not share the view that some of the European sailing media have said it's all done for Auckland now. They've wet the bed, or shat the bed, as one European journalist, not Magnus, said. And I don't think that's the case at all. So we'll see if it's where this plays out and how it plays out in Auckland, AKL, with Mr. Dalton leading the way. And I don't think anybody thinks he should or will get kicked out of running ETNZ, but whether he should also be running the event and running the bid process. A lot of people who don't agree with that are saying he's wearing too many hats, as we'll tell you in a moment. There's not a lot of confidence I'm hearing about this gentleman. This is Mark Dunphy, the CEO of Greymouth Petroleum, who's the one who said, oh, I can raise the money, leave the event here. And originally he said, Mr. Dalton's got to go. If I'm going to raise this money, we got to have new leadership for the team. Well, that's crazy. Dalton has done, Grant's won the event now twice, almost won it here in 13, then won it in 17 in Bermuda, and defended it in 21. I mean, this is a really top-notch team. And I think it was a huge mistake by Mr. Dunphy to say, well, if I come in and raise this money, Mr. Dalton's got to go. But he does have some serious backers, as we told you. Sir Michael Fay, who chaired TNZ in 87 and 88, is in the mix, and he's got plenty of dough, and he's been in the cup. He knows the politics. He knows what's going on. And so to this gentleman, whom I've known well, I've known Michael Fay, too, since the 80s, late 80s, but Jim Farmer, who I know quite well and have had dinner at his home any number of times and in different places around the world, former director of Team New Zealand and a former member of the Challenger Commission when we were leading up to the 07 Cup in Valencia, and is one of New Zealand's top lawyers. He's a Queen's Counsel. He is the real deal, Jim Farmer, former TNZ director. And of course, Hamish Ross, who got dumped on pretty heavily in that news release that Team New Zealand put out after our show Tuesday. It was late Tuesday, our time. And saying, hey, Dr. Hamish Ross, the legal advisor, has been writing to the New York Yacht Club and asking them to intervene in the New York courts against the Challenger record. And then people say, well, how did that get back to Team New Zealand so quickly? Well, you've got to know that the New York Yacht Club and the Royal Yacht Squadron have the strongest bond probably of any two yacht clubs in the history of the planet. Remember that the last time the Brits were in the match in the America's Cup finals was 1964. Constellation defending sovereign is the Challenger. Who was sovereign representing? The Royal Yacht Squadron. So for Hamish to think that New York Yacht Club was going to act in the New York courts against the squadron and say, hey, your challenge is not valid because of whatever legal construct, I don't think that was wise. And I've told him so. And he said he will come on the show in due course. He's been saying that now for a couple of weeks, but I'm quite sure he will come on when he has news to report and things to say. So I think New York called the squadron, Royal Yacht Squadron, up and said, hey, these guys are trying to knock you out of the box. And I'm sure the squadron then called up Grant Dalton and ETNZ and say, what's this? Mm-hmm. So Hamish at the center of that, at least in the media. But as always, there's two sides of the story. We'll look forward to getting Hamish on here to talk about that and also this Kiwi home defense. And maybe we'll get Mr. Dunphy on. Russell Green has also promised me. He's the rules legal advisor, my longtime friend with ETNZ, and he's been on the show before at the fact that the start of this of the 2021 cycle, so that would have been in 2017. I think Russell's been on the show, was on the show. He's often watching, And I know his wife quite well, too. Who's a cool gal, German gal, who's a good friend. Birgit Green. And this new website we commended to you, the Kiwi Home Defense, and people said, oh, well, you know, they kind of lost their credibility now. I'm not sure that's true. I think there's a lot of people in New Zealand now who are waking up to this whole controversy, as you in the Commonwealth would say, and we'll see how that plays out. This is the press release from 3 days ago, just after we got off the air on Tuesday. Emirates, Team New Zealand, and RNZ, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, revealed damning details behind the Team Dunphy bid. And in a nutshell, yesterday Mr. Dunphy clearly stated in the press release that direct claims by ETNZ about his offshore dealings were false. However, despite both private and public requests for direct answers, there has been nothing more than general sweeping press statements and an avoidance to directly answer our, meaning ETNZ's, specific questions. Did you have a call with a member of the New York Yacht Club who was directly involved with the America's Cup, where you asked for their support to file an action in the New York Supreme Court? There's a press release. Did you advise New York Yacht Club member that you have the financial support of Ernesto Bertarelli and have also been communicating with Larry Ellison? Have you had any meetings with any person who represent or could be deemed to represent a rival team intending to enter AC 37? Was Hamish Ross representing you when he lobbied the New York Yacht Club via email, which they revealed then, to instigate an action in the New York Supreme Court? This release went on, and it's pretty heavy hitting. And as I said, it got the attention of a number of people down in New Zealand, and these are all valid questions. But there's also valid questions that the other side now are going to start asking. You talk about this he said, she said, right, Julia? Mm. And they're going to ask, who really does own Team New Zealand? How much money is owed to Mr. Denora, who is the rich Italian billionaire backer who lives in Monaco? And were these contributions that he has given the team over since 2000 to keep it afloat, or were these loans that may be called, and on and on and on? So is Ernesto Bertarelli really involved or not? Because we know he's been kicking the tires. There, as you heard Magnus suggest, it could be that Blair Tuke and Pete Burling have not yet signed, and one hears that they have not yet signed for the next Cup with Emirates Team New Zealand, and that they have been in touch with Mr. Bertarelli to see whether or not they might sail with him. Now, the reason I think that's not likely is because there's already the announcement of the intention by Grant Dalton and by Sir James Ratcliffe to have a very strong nationality rule, which could preclude Blair and Pete from sailing for any other team other than the Kiwis, or maybe if they got, I don't know if they have a British passport as well. A lot of the Commonwealth countries have multiple passports. But we'll see what Ernesto Bertarelli of Switzerland, of Société Nautique Genève, and of course the patron saint, the owner of Alinghi, and the successful winner of the Cup in 2003, and then defender in 2007, then they lost it in 2010. Patrizio Bertelli, likewise, very quiet. We've heard nothing, although Max Serena is starting to surface in a couple of comments in the Italian press, wanting to know when is the madness going to stop and when are we going to have finally some details about it, like a class rule, and some of the other details about the next event. Patrizio Bertelli, of course, Italian CEO of not only Prada, but also of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Ellison, I don't think Larry's involved at all. I think Larry's happy with Russell to be running Sail GP and running it well. Russell is running it. Larry's financing it. And I don't know anybody that's had any conversations with him. Certainly, Hamish says that he has not. But who knows? Larry runs in much higher levels and circles than most of us, but I doubt very much. Although he can also, as we saw back in 2000, when he heard that Russell and Brad had left ETNZ and gone to Alinghi, he immediately said to his guys, they were down sailing the Maxi Sayonara down in the Caribbean, and he said, oh, that means I could win the Cup. We should now do, and they've been trying to talk Larry into doing the Cup, his guys in the Maxi Sayonara campaign. for years, and he said, no, I can't. You're not going to win that.
Yeah.
And then when he heard that Russell and Brad and the Type 5 had gone, he said, oh, I can win that. Who do we need? Well, we need a designer. We got Bruce Farrell already who designed Sayonara, their maxi.
Mm.
We've got Chris Dixon, who is the skipper and the sailing program director for Sayonara. Who else do we need? Oh, well, you need, some other crew, and you need Ehman. What? I wasn't there. I was in Germany in bed asleep, and I got a call at 4 a.m. Hey, Larry's going to do the cup, and he wants you. I said, I don't even know Larry. I've never talked to him. Doesn't matter. He wants you, and you're coming with us. I said, oh, I am. We met in Newport a couple weeks later, and sure enough.
So
if Larry can decide like that, we're going to do this, here we go. And if he saw an opportunity, wouldn't surprise me if he did get back involved in the cup. Julia.
There are a string of comments, but I'll just read 3 of them because they're all questioning, not in the same way. Stingray says, why are Dalton, Shuby, and Green having to fly around? Did Origin Sports Group come up empty? Question number 1.
Well, let's deal with that. That's a good question from Stingray. I think Daltz, who's the take charge kind of a guy and hands-on kind of a guy, he just wants to go see the whites of the eyes of the other people with whom Sir Keith Mills has been dealing. I don't blame him. I would have never delegated that to Origin Sports. I would have handled that myself. And the other?
John Emmett says probably makes some of the Kiwis more determined for home defense.
Yes.
And Mark Houston said, if it's not resolved by November, it won't probably be until the new year. Daltz isn't rushing into anything.
Well, and I don't blame him. That's the other thing that he said. Daltz said in a couple of these interviews with Mike Hosking, the big drive time, the radio morning show guy, that we played for you on either last Friday or Tuesday show. I can't remember now. He said, look, we're in charge. We are the defender trustee. We don't have to run this in 2024 if we don't want. We can run it in 2025 or 2026. We're in no rush to do this. When the ducks are in a row and everything makes sense, we'll do it. And he's right. And that's, I think, also the right attitude. Julia, you got one more?
Well, you answered it a bit. Who was the ETNZ helmsman in 2013?
13 was Barker, Dino Barker. And I think the world of Dino. He's a hell of a good sailor, but after losing in 2013, I was shocked and amazed when New York Yacht Club hired him for the 2017 campaign. I said, look, the guy is, he's a, I wouldn't call him a choke artist, but he's never been able to seal the deal. So let's move on to a couple of these other things that have happened in the last couple of days. Former Team New Zealand, this is in the paper in New Zealand Herald 2 days ago. Former Team New Zealand, 3 days ago now. Team New Zealand director questions Grant Dalton's role of CEO, acting chairman, and trustee. And I don't know if you can see it in the subhead under the photo. Grant Dalton is chief executive of Team New Zealand as well as acting chairman. He's also a trustee on the charitable trust that owns Team New Zealand. This is the New Zealand Herald reporting that. And don't forget, he's also the CEO of ACE, the America's Cup Event Authority. That caused some problems the last time around. So this was questioned, and this former TNZ director who was questioning Dalton's role, you know who that was? That was Jim Farmer, saying that Grant Dalton wears too many hats. So that's gotten people's attention down there as this slinging has gone back and forth, Julia.
No, that's probably right. Yeah.
So the next thing that happened was that also the New Zealand Herald, remember there's no love lost between New Zealand Herald, the kind of the paper of record in that country, sort of the way the New York Times is here, but they had an S-fight during the COP back and forth trying to get information. They were going to release some information about ACE and about the inner workings. And Daltz and co, Russell Green hired some lawyers. They went to court and they stopped. They prevented the New Zealand Herald from writing the story that they wanted to write. And the laws down there are a little different than they are here in the U.S. and elsewhere, more like in the U.K. where there are some restraints on newspapers. Grant Dalton, this is a headline, yesterday Grant Dalton admits on-demand loans from Team New Zealand principal are a, quote, what do you think of that?
Oh, I didn't
Are a
see it.
wild
Yeah,
card.
I didn't know
And
that.
the article goes on, and I'm not going to, I don't want to get the back and forth and he said, she said, and what the article says, because it's the headline, and it's the impression that it's giving people in New Zealand. Oh, there are on-demand loans that Team New Zealand owes to there's Denora in that photo alongside Grant Dalton and Matteo Denora, he's the Italian billionaire living in Monaco who's been, I thought, buying into the team, but apparently they're loans. And New Zealand Herald is looking into this as well, and that's part of the motivation one hears for why they need upfront money, not only to keep from the venues, not only to keep the team running, but maybe to pay Mr. Denora back for some of these loans. So, Julia.
Yeah, Kim Pannell.
Pannell, yeah.
Mark Dunphy is clearly a very successful businessman and has obviously wanted to remain out of the public eye for many years. Surely he has nothing to gain by mounting a campaign where he'd be hung, drawn, and quartered for spearheading it. I think there's a third version of the story, and I don't think we've seen the last of him by a long shot.
Well, maybe, and others have argued similarly. So we'll see how this is not going to play out anytime soon. But I think what it does again say, it says a couple things, and but for sure, I still think the best place for the venue, the event, is Auckland.
Yep.
And the sooner these parties sit down, whether Mr. Dunphy really has any money or not, there are certainly other people in the business community and in the government and that could help come to the aid of the party down there and keep the cup in Auckland where it belongs. And I'll say again, I think if they go out of New Zealand and go to one of these other venues, the chances of them winning actually declines, irrespective of how much more money they think they can raise offshore, as we saw what happened in 2017 to Oracle Team USA with all the money of full faith and credit of Larry Ellison. Now, how about this guy? Now, you see, they used to be called Ineos Team UK. This is a photo from down in the land of the long white cloud during the 2021 Cup, Ineos Team UK. Well, Sir James Ratcliffe, on a new website, or a rebranded website, it's now apparently called Ineos Britannia, with Rita, which of course has been the names of Sir Ben Ainsley's boats over the years, his fins and so on. Rita, Ineos Britannia, sailing for the Royal Yacht Squadron. Look, now they put limited there to make that quite clear, which again, I don't think that's an issue. I just, and I've told Hamish Ross that any number of times. So this new website, or this newly branded website, has shown up, and you see they got Belstaff, Grenadier, AMG Petronas, which is the Formula One team, and so on. And coming on October 4th is an announcement where apparently Sir Ben Ainsley is going, and obviously Jim Ratcliffe are going to announce, or Jim, are going to announce a reshuffling and the lineup, apparently, of the team, now called Ineos Britannia, for the next Cup, for AC37. So that's an interesting piece of news. Now, do you know where that's going to take place? You think that's going to happen at the Royal Yacht Squadron down in Cowes? No. Or in London someplace? No, it's going to happen at Brackley.
Where's Brackley?
Yeah, exactly. The Formula One aficionados will know where Brackley is, as it's been the area outside of London where some number of F1 teams have been based. But this event is happening there, the Ineos Britannia, because I signed up for it, and you can sign up for it too to attend virtually, the Inside Tack. And notice the Ineos Britannia live shows. You can go to ineosbritannia.com/en for English /inside-tack. And I signed up to it this morning because that event is going to take place at Brackley. The live show. Now, of course, they've got all sorts of technology there because it's the headquarters of the Ineos AMG Mercedes F1 team, and they've got a huge technological center there and all sorts of capabilities, and why wouldn't you run it there? But one hears that team is going to, that Formula One team at Brackley is going to play a large role in Ineos Britannia, the new name of Ineos Team UK. So what do you all think of that, Julia? Any comments?
There are lots of comments. That Dulce has full control. He's not dancing to the beat of anyone's drum.
Fair enough.
I think that Ineos' 4th October press event will be somewhat highlight why Dulce needs to get some real money from somewhere and soon.
Who is saying that?
Gordon Smith.
Interesting. Well, that may be true, Gordon. You may be absolutely correct.
James Frederick Bland, Joost Howellen is making Pettigrews fins now. Pettigrews has relocated to Spain. Cascais.
Cascais. Well, Cascais is in Portugal, not Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that means. Maybe J. Frederick Bland ought to come on the Zoom cocktail party.
Yeah.
In any event, the postponement signal is still up at RNZ. If this is going to be postponed for a longer time, it'd be no surprise to me. This is a Photoshop picture, again, that I did. This is not literally a flag being displayed at the RNZ. But I don't think this is going to resolve anytime soon. And I think these other venues are getting cold feet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Cork's going to now come out, oh, we got this, we're going to do this. I don't think so. I think this whole S-fight down in Auckland is causing those other venues to get colder feet than ever. And I hope that the group gets together and runs the next event in Auckland. I don't know what you all think. See who's on the cocktail party. John Emmett or Gordon Smith or Stingray or Trevor Walker's on. Trev, you haven't commented yet. Any of you want to come to the fore here and comment on any of this before we leave the American Cup boat race? Gordon Smith.
Hi. I think the announcement at Brackley is meaningful. I think if you look at the ownership of the F1 team, people think Mercedes F1 team is owned by the Mercedes car company. It's actually a partnership with Toto Wolff and Jim Ratcliffe, or Ineos, I'm not sure.
Correct.
And Mercedes. But I think the sheer resources that they have at that technology center, people quite often misunderstand F1 teams now. They function, particularly teams like, dare I say, Williams, but also Mercedes and McLaren. Their resources are remarkable, and they also spend a lot of time working for industry. So they do fundamental research, and they license products. And also, the F1 teams have a cap on the resources they can use in their racing.
Correct.
But the F1 teams then have these other resources which are also in-house, so they need to reapply them. So I think part of Ratcliffe's vision was to create a human performance and technology partnership to win sports events. So he has this vision of how you merge individuals' skills and abilities and use technology to do that.
Well, for instance, how they've gone to the top of the cycling world, that is Ineos, after taking over one of those teams, and then I think using some technology out of F1 and so on. They have a big wind tunnel. Brackley's what, 40 miles outside of London?
Yes, is it Northamptonshire? They're all.
I think that's right.
There's a sort of cluster around Oxfordshire and Northamptonshire around the Silverstone racetrack. They're not that far from the Silverstone racetrack.
Yeah.
But the technologies they use, people say, oh, it's to do with motor racing. Actually, it's computational fluid dynamics. There's a whole. Really, it's difficult to compare them to other race teams or other sporting organisations because they're really industrial research labs. They fund, the computing requirements are enormous, which is why if you look across the F1 teams, so many, if not all of them, have IT sponsors because without them they don't have the computing resources.
Major sponsors. And of course, as you know, I was involved with what was then West McLaren Mercedes, running the West sponsorship for McLaren Mercedes for the German company Reimsma, based in Hamburg, which is how Leslie, Meg, and I ended up in Hamburg in the late 90s for 6-7 years before moving to Spain down by Monaco. Ed Worley is saying, Julie, I see here, thanks for that, Gordon. Ed Worley saying it will be hard for the politicians in New Zealand government to justify taxpayer funds to pay back loans to millionaires to support ETNZ and Grant Dalton. Yarvahe is saying, yeah, these are all Ineos brands. He's right, meaning the ones that were on that sponsor board. Yeah, Commodore Glidewell, Ken Glidewell's on saying, yeah, it's near London, Oxfordshire. I guess it's Oxfordshire is what Yarvahe is saying. Or maybe he may be saying maybe Northamptonshire, but it's about 35, 40 miles outside of town. I've been up there. What other comments, Julia? James Bland was out doing work for the U.S. OK Dinghy Racing Association. Mm-hmm. Did Botine leave American Magic and sign on with Alinghi? I don't know the answer to that, Stingray. I don't think so. It's the old Ilmore setup at Brackley. Yes, that's true. Remarkable results out of here from almost day one. Ineos has AC. Yes, this is a point from Stingray. Ineos has AC job openings posted, especially for IT simulators, etc. Mm-hmm. Okay, enough of the cup, but that's everything we know at the moment. I do think you're going to see some people sign with Ineos. You're going to see some big announcements on the 4th. Maybe Tom Slingsby. But I wonder how that's, unless he's got a British passport. Maybe Slingers has got a British passport.
Maybe he does.
Because he's Australian, obviously, by birth and by origin. Maybe Nathan Otteridge, but I think Slingsby's at the top of the heap these days, at least in foiling type boats. You saw what he did. He just won the Moth Worlds going away. And we'll see. Jan O'Malley, speaking of people, terrific sailors. Jan, welcome to you. If anybody, again, wants to join in the cocktail party that we're doing, we are doing a Zoom. We call it a cocktail party, not because anybody's, certainly us, Julie. We're not having any cocktails here.
I know. I just
going to
say.
Iced coffee, we could have put some Baileys in it. But it is Friday, and it's getting late on the continent. It's nearly midnight in Europe. On the continent, 22:37 in London. Nice late summer, early fall afternoon here. Do you know where the word fall came from?
I saw an article about it, which I didn't read.
Well, it's from the falling leaves.
Yeah.
Of autumn.
Yeah.
Autumn is we're one of the few countries to use the word fall, apparently, and according to the reason, I won't bore you with it.
Yeah.
But autumn.
Yes.
And most of the rest of the world use autumn. But you know from whence we, the U.S., got fall and autumn. Both came from the Brits. So the Brits say, oh, we say autumn, and you bloody Americans say fall. Well, but the etymology of the word fall came from the Brits and from going back where the falling leaves and English pre-Revolutionary War writers, or so I'm reliably informed. That'll get everybody. John Emmett does not have a glass of cider for the cocktail party. If you do want to join the Zoom cocktail party, we're just about to wrap up here, but you're welcome to it. I don't have the number of the code right in front of me. I didn't repeat it on the slide, but do you have it, Julia?
Yeah, in a minute.
Okay, you can get it. So I'll press on with, oh, that's loud. Is it correct or crutonic? I had Jody Shields on at the top of this show. It's really fun to have Jody on showing us around his front yard and backyard at Nwangi Sailing Club up north of Sydney. And that horrible Baby Shark tune. This appeared in Scuttlebutt. It's from Bill Canfield, the father of Taylor Canfield, who just won the Congressional Cup, hell of a good sailor, who's now signed with New York Yacht Club for the next Cup. He and Mike Buckley, their Stars and Stripes team. And Bill, who's been on this show a number of times, is president of the U.S. Virgin Islands Sailing Association, member of New York Yacht Club and a couple others, St. Thomas Yacht Club, presumably. He said, I love Sail GP, but I'm quite worried the product will fail without the generosity of Mr. Ellison's vast wealth to prop it up. 2 areas for change include sailing time and makeup of teams. And he is proposing, Bill Canfield. And of course, don't forget that Taylor is sailing with Jimmy Spithill on Team USA. Mm-hmm. And he did here in, not Marseille, in Saint-Tropez here last week. He's saying the regatta, Bill Canfield, the regattas must be extended on to 2 weekends at each destination. In Plymouth, they are facing a poor forecast with light air both days. They were facing it. To help the F-50s foil the unpopular call of reducing crew from 5 to 3 will be needed. Well, they have the bigger wings now, which helps. All events this year have faced similar forecasts. The movement of 85 equipment containers around the world and the 2-week setup for the event deserves 2 shots at good breeze and exciting sailing. Well, even if it were 4 days instead of 2 weekends, Bill, if it were 4 days instead of 2, that would probably help a lot without spreading it over 2 weeks. Additionally, the original SailGP concept was nation against nation, with strict rules about homegrown sailors competing against one another. This strongly popular idea, with some exceptions for weaker sailing countries to develop their team, has been abandoned. Why? I believe to include so-called sailing rock stars on each team. However, the rock star editions are recognized by very few fans, that is outside of sailing, and the popular country versus country rivalry is gone, along with fan interest. I believe overall popularity is suffering this year for this reason. And again, that is Bill Canfield, father of Taylor Canfield. And he's saying there is still time for these changes to be considered for the good of SailGP ability to stand on its own and increase its fan base. He went on to say, Julia, there must be a ton of comments.
Yeah, I just the nationality thing is very attractive. I don't know why we give it up. Before we go any further, I have the number for the
Zoom cocktail
party, and I will do it twice, and it is 227 657.
You have it. Bloody hell, I've got it, Julia. I forgot I have a slide. There it is. 267-220-6570.
Yeah.
Can't read your own writing.
Oh,
267-220-6570.
Yeah.
Passcode is TFE if you still want to join us. We're about an hour and 45 in, and I forgot I had that slide. I was going to push these buttons, and I've got it saved, and if I did, it might have shown up with God knows some pornography or some link to something there.
Yeah.
No, I'm teasing. Okay, so if you want to join the cocktail party, but what about the other comments? Any others? Canfield in the New York Yacht Club. Okay, I think John Emmett is perhaps more correct with respect to 2 weekends. What did Emmett say? There's a whole lot of comments here. I got to go back up a little bit. I could understand a 3-day event, but not over 2 weekends. That's what Emmett and I guess John and I are agreeing. That doesn't make sense to me at all. I agree. 2 weekends would be great, but I do think that the nationality perspective, this is Gordon Smith, is actually more attractive than many believe. Yes, I agree. Will Spithill join Canfield in the New York Yacht Club Challenge crew made up of SailGP team? Now, there's an interesting question. I don't think so. I think he is wed to Luna Rossa Pirelli, or so one hears.
Yeah.
But
there was a thing before that said that Luna Rossa had 45 engineers at work.
Yeah, okay. That's what Max Serena said. And that may be true, or partially true, or part-time true. Who knows? Ed Worley, T. Hutch approached Spithill. This is Stingray saying, and he said he was all good with Luna Rossa. I remember that as well. Marcus Schwentner's on. Hello, Marcus. Talked about kites at the top of the show. And kite foils, kite foiling, and also about foil. Okay. A national that needs to be answered. Only he can do that. Mark Husted is saying, yeah. Late today, Ted Ryman. I hope I haven't missed too much. Hello, Ted. Welcome. Yeah, we do have this cocktail party. I'll put it up there one more time. Control Zoom. There it is. I saved that slide, Julie, and it actually works.
Oh, good.
Outside of the normal slideshow. 267-220-6570, passcode TFE. Right now, I only see Gordon Smith on, standing by. If anybody else wants to join, please do. Julie, thanks for digging that up. And it's our time for the 7th inning stretch. Now, as this is playing, those of you who are just new, we have been doing this because at least Julie and I here, you don't have to get up. You don't want. I need to get up and stretch.
Yeah.
To the traditional. Can you get up? Okay. As the Kansas City Orchestra and choir have this "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" that they play during the 7th inning of our baseball games here, which, God, they carry on sometimes for a long time. Yeah, we're gonna talk. Look at Gordon's standing up. We've lost his head. Gordon Smith in Denmark is standing up. Well done.
Yes.
Now, I've got an announcement to make about this, and that, again, that is the Kansas City Symphony. And
we sit down again, right?
Yeah, we can sit down. That's the Kansas City Symphony and chorus, Michael Stern conducting. Now, we have words, and I'm not going to tell you from whom because we're still working on them a little bit, but one of our FOSI, one of our Texas FOSI, has written words that normally would take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
I don't care that we never get back.
If I never get back. So let's something root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Okay, but we have a FOSI who's rewritten that with sailing. Sailing, and we're going to tweak that a little bit and use that next Tuesday.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
It's terrific. So thanks for that 7th inning stretch. Thanks, Gordon, for joining us for the 7th inning stretch there in Denmark. And I really don't have much else in the show. We don't even have a Bravo Zulu, except I just wanted to say Bravo Zulu to all of our FOSI. Thank you very much for coming on. Gordon's the only one left, as far as I can see, there in Denmark. And adding so much to this show. It was really fun.
Indeed.
And terrific of you all to do that. Thanks, Gordon, and all the others who came before him, gotten on with their day. Bravo Zulu, indeed. What a great group. We always say, Julia, how keen we are, lucky we are.
Absolutely. Love them.
To have the FOSI. 1 Whiskey Tango Foxtrot and 1 only, apropos our least favorite topic. You see the big print on this truck? There's a big sign here, big advertising, and at first blush you think, oh my God, who's this urging people not to get vaccinated?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's tongue-in-cheek. It's the Wilmore Funeral Home. Don't get vaccinated. And they're obviously, it's a little irony, they're trying to get people to get vaccinated. That's from, I think, from North Carolina or South Carolina, and somewhere, somehow, FOSI Ted Ryman down in Cape Town, who just joined us, sent that along, as he does many of these clever things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, with all this latest back and forth and up and down, it was sad to hear. Jody's really sad, and the Australian situation seems pretty awful, frankly. Jonathan Frank is with us. Yes, Jonathan's okay. I'm going to reveal. Jonathan Frank's the one who wrote the words.
Oh, good.
Take me out to I can't
yacht
remember
race.
A yacht race, something like that. And we're going to work on that, and we're going to record it. And instead of the Kansas City Orchestra, we're going to have our own good thing. So don't get vaccinated. We got to get McIrvin, Dr. Mr. McIrvin back on here, because there is so much. Now you can have it. You can have had it. You can still be a carrier. You can still be infecting people. I don't know why we think any of that. We're all going to get it, apparently. We got to get Andrew back on here and sort some of that out. John Emmett said, I had my flu vaccination on Tuesday. We are headed for a bad cold and flu season in the Northern Hemisphere. Julia, you've had your flu vaccine.
I have.
And I'm promised mine here. Jonathan Frank's out of here. He's time for a beer on a Friday evening down in Texas and going sailing in the morning. Have a nice sail. Jonathan, and thank you for the contribution of the text, the words, to, I'm not going to go into it now. Take me out to go sailing is what that's going to be. Take me out to the sea. That'll be fun. Jacqueline Clark.
Yes, she's
on.
She's been on all day.
And thank goodness they all have their pants on, including Gordon. Thanks, Gordon. Any last words, Gordon, before we let you go and we wrap this up? You may be muted.
No, I think it's been very interesting. I think the shenanigans about the AC are, of course, always of interest. I think it's very interesting that Ineos are making this announcement on October 4th. They're not pressured to do so, which makes it more interesting. They're not responding to external events. They're making a deliberate decision to share information. And you can just see my wife in the background. There we are. She's just come back from her evening run.
Nice. She's fitter, she's fitter than all of us.
Yeah.
You can have a look at Eddie the dog as well if you want, but he's just having his teeth brushed, believe it or not.
No, I think here's the problem with the Cup, and I'm going to save this for Tuesday. I hope Hamish is coming on Tuesday or Friday next week. But all of these problems, the lack of teams, the lack of venues, all of this stuff is a symptom of one thing. What is it?
Money.
Exactly. The cup is too expensive. We had this discussion with Magnus on Tuesday. The budgets in 87, which was by all accounts the most successful cup, the 87 Cup, we had 13 challengers, 4 defenders down in Perth, Western Australia, a long way away from everybody. Say, oh, no one's going to go down there. Well, people turned up in spades. For spent the 4 months, the summer down there, October through February, 5 months. If you didn't get eliminated, it was fabulous. And we were there 2 summers. At least I, as part of the New York Yacht Club team, was there twice, 3, 4 times in the 2 summers before that. So,
Tom, I don't disagree with
well,
you.
let me finish. Hang on, Gordon. Gordon, hang on. Let me finish. The problem is the budgets, which were then 16 million and are now 150, give or take, something. And as a result, there aren't very many teams. We had 4 teams last time. 4 teams, 3 of which were billionaire sponsored. ETNZ, he says he doesn't have a billionaire, but he's got Matteo Denora. He's got the government. You know, those are billionaires supporting ETNZ. Come on. And yeah, Grant goes out and does a good job getting some big corporate sponsors, but 4 teams. And it wasn't really competitive. ETNZ waxed them, let's be honest and fair, waxed them all. And the racing was at times interesting, but at times so far apart. But forget about that. If you've only got 4 teams, you've only got 4 countries that are looking at it. You've only got 4 television real networks looking at it, and you can almost write the U.S. off because there just isn't that much interest in the U.S. even at the best of times. Now, when we had fully six challengers from the U.S., 5 of which were pretty okay.
Yeah.
For the 87 Cup, you had all corners of the country involved, and you had publicity. If you don't have teams, you don't have eyeballs, you don't have sponsors, you don't have television, you don't have a big event. Gordon, over to you.
Well, I joined the Royal Match Racing Centre of the Royal Danish Yacht Club, which at the time I think was the only permanently professionally staffed match racing centre in the world. I think. I'm not sure. But when I joined, the match racing was kicking off, the America's Cup was kicking off in Valencia, and 20% of our members were working and living in Valencia. And they were sail makers, they were skippers, they were
exactly.
crewmen. But here's my point. I don't disagree that it has become horrendously expensive, but then I also think you need to consider, if you look at, for example, Sir James Ratcliffe and Ineos, do you think his motivation is to win something easily or by simply throwing money at it? Or do you think he wants to establish something that he wins because it's difficult? If you look at his behavior, if you look at the behavior of the cycle team, if you look at the behavior of Mercedes F1, they thrive in winning something that is challenging, but it's only challenging when you've got a lot of competitors who are challenging you. So I personally believe that the evolution that is about to take place in America's Cup, if Ineos are successful, if ETNZ, if this goes forward, I think actually it will change to something closer to what you believe it should be. I think to take a retrograde step and say it should just be in 12-meter boats is not really.
I'm not saying that.
Well,
no, I'm not saying. I got to wrap this up, but I'm not saying that. I agree 100% with what you're saying, but I'm not saying about 12 meters. What I am saying, whatever the configuration is, it has to be accessible to a lot of countries and a lot of teams. It still has to be special. It can't be another 52 Super Series, as I said with Magnus on Tuesday. If it just is another weekend regatta or a summer, it's got to be tough. It's got to be interesting. It's got to be a design competition as well as a sailing competition, as well as a management competition, and as you said, sail makers and boat build, all that stuff. It's got to be a boat building competition too. It always has.
That would be my point, and I think that is actually what Mercedes F1 and what James Ratcliffe, their thought processes are absolutely behind the ball.
I think
on
everybody.
I think you would agree with them more than you.
No, I don't disagree. I think everybody agrees with it. I think the means of getting there the devil's in the details, and I think everybody has a different outlook on how to achieve that, and that's the problem. But we have to have boats that are not then mothballed. These boats have to have an afterlife for two reasons. They've got to have a resale value so that the teams, once they're done, can on-sell the boats and come out of it with some residual. But that also, because the boats have a residual, they then new teams can come in that want to kick the tires, can buy old boats as they used to do in the 12-meter days and the IACC days, and then you need. Somebody told me this morning I should put that picture up that's on the cover shot of my Facebook page with the 12-meter North Americans happening this week or next. I guess now. And all those 12s lined up, and I'm not saying let's go back to 12-pounders. That's yesterday's love and it's ancient history. But if you did a technologically advanced box rule 75-footer box rule, so it's still a design competition. You're using modern materials. The thing is light, and the boats are big and impressive. I think you get a lot of countries, a lot of teams, and a lot of people back in the game, a lot of sponsors, a lot of eyeballs.
Would the construction be less expensive, and that there'd be more team members, so it'd be more expensive to support the team?
There's a lot of ways of skinning the cat. We're not going to fix that here now and design that. But I think it's the strategy, it's the goal that has to be achieved.
That's the visuals.
And, J. Frederick Bland, ILCAs now have carbon masts or carbon tops. How is that made sailing more accessible? 10K lasers, yes. That's a problem. Ultra-modern J-class type, those would be too expensive, Ed Worley, because they're so big. Good luck coming up with a deed of gift challenge boat that can beat Hutai. Well, you could, Stingray. Sailing, full stop, needs to be made more accessible, John Emmett says. I think I think, Gordon, you agree with that. Shake your head. Yeah, we all do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it has to be more accessible. It has to be. The other thing is, frankly, with the foiling boats are magnificent. They're wonderful, meaning the AC-75s. But if it's not something that you, Gordon, and you, Julia, and I, okay, maybe not you and I at our advanced age, but if it's not something people in the clubs can aspire to, at least in Formula One, we can aspire to driving an F1 car. We may not be able to get it off the grid, let alone through the first corner, right?
Yeah.
Well,
but at least we can aspire to do it.
I agree-ish. I think one of the things about an F1 car is actually people recognize they probably can't, but that's another point. But now, okay, here's my sailing ignorance. I have a question. Was there not a Corinthian event? Was it the Admiral's Cup? That was sailed to a class rule where nations could send a boat to compete.
There have been all sorts of such events, and the latest of which, and the most successful of which, just ended. And this is the New York Yacht Club's Invitational Cup with, 18 teams, all Corinthian, all non-professional sailors, some former professional sailors, but nonetheless people who are under the World Sailing Eligibility Code now. And that regatta is a huge success, and it's hugely good for the sport. That's in one design boats. And I don't think the issue is Corinthian. I don't think we're ever going to have a Corinthian America's Cup, nor should we, even though some people, including Julie, a couple of our dear friends, argue for owner-driver.
Yes, absolutely.
In kind of the Ellison, Ted Turner, Mike Vanderbilt, in that.
I'll finish here, but I would just summarize my perspective, which I think that there is, I think one should have a little faith in, or a little more faith in, the idea that these guys want to create a sustainably competitive cup, and they recognize the points that people are making about cost and totally get it. And I think a little more patience is required to allow them to develop the vision. And I have a lot of faith, because they do not want to win a cup which is valueless. It means nothing to them as competitors. It really doesn't.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think people want to win it. And I think there are some people.
They do want to win it, but they don't want to win an empty cup.
I understand your point, but there are some people who want to win it at all costs, and they don't care how they win it or why they win it. And I think that at the end of the day, Julia, and and Gordon, it gets down to that. But let's don't debate it now. As Ed Worley is saying, the images of the New York Yacht Club race with spinnakers with flags of nations was cool, and the big yellow kite that they used. I think we all agree on one thing, and we're seeing it all throughout the comments. It has to be accessible. It has to be relatable, and the current cup is not. You agree with that, Julia?
Yes, absolutely.
Gordon?
I think the last cup was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, to be relatable.
On
And
a
Stingray,
number of different ways.
And I agree with Stingray. Impossible police AC budgets. Yeah, people will spend in trying to, even though some sports have salary caps or try to, and I think it would be tough. But I think we can have an event that is relatable and is more, and is you can. In fact, it can be that it may be that you can't win it on a low budget. But at least you can be in it, kick the tires, learn about it, wave the flag, and then maybe down the road get involved.
I think it would be sort of fun to say, the regatta has to be sailed in existing facilities, and you can spend as much as you want on the boat.
Yeah, and that, you know what? That's you've been on that, Gordon. You've heard Julia has been on that in the past. Apropos the Olympics and 84 LA just going in and using facilities. I don't think they're going to build up big facilities in any of these places. Maybe Jeddah is if they end up doing it. It's going to be in Auckland anyway. It's going to be back in Auckland.
I think if you just reflect at the moment on F1, you could argue up and down how you feel about that, but they have managed to get teams to join, to want to join. The franchises have very large values. And there is competition. There is a box rule. It's Formula One. It's the formula.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think the experience from having to manage that it should inform as to how they think maybe in a different way, but maybe AC can be managed, and it manages that balance of technology, human performance, competition, for sure.
Okay, but come on, we're repeating ourselves now. And let me interject here. Ed Worley is saying sailors like sailing and can relate to crews actually sailing the boats, not hunkered down in the pits like race cars. And that's what I mean by relatable. I think when the yacht club, you go to St. Francis Yacht Club, and you go to the KDY, to the Royal Danish Yacht Club, and you ask people when's the next cup, who won the last one, what kind of boats was it sailed in, and there are precious few people who will know the answers to any of those things at any yacht club in the world. And we have lost the following of our key audience, the sailors. And I don't mean just in an exclusive yacht clubs like KDY or St. Francis or Tell Me What. I mean at my little home club in Michigan, which is a tiny little club on a tiny little lake. They don't care about it anymore. They have lost interest in it. And that has to be fixed, or else the cup is going to be Crutonic. I see you shaking your head. Yes, Julia, you agree with that?
Yep. Let's
leave it at that. You're a good sort. Thank you, Gordon, very much for all your contributions.
Thank you.
During this show and others. I'm going to check to see there's no. John Emmett is still there.
Not yet asleep.
He's still awake, John Emmett. You're a good man. John Emmett, anything for the good of the order here before we wrap up?
Not really. I'll make my prediction in December.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. There's somebody else whose name I can't see now, who was with us. Wheatley, Magnus is on. It was great to have Magnus on the show. Okay, thanks, everybody. Ciao.
Trevor Walker.
Trevor, you want to say anything? You've been patiently on the Zoom call. You're probably having a cocktail like cheers, Gordon, John, and bang the corn.
I do not have anything to say.
There's Trevor. Hi, Trev.
Yeah.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. Is that like the Buckeyes?
Yes, it is. You know it is, Tom.
Of Ohio State. Who do they play tomorrow?
They play Akron. Zips.
Akron? Oh, dear. I don't even know who Michigan plays for. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much, Julia. Thanks to the gang on the cocktail party. That was fun. That was even more fun, I think, than the last time we did that. Finish line is our final little segment here, and I'm only going to repeat what I said at the top of the show because a lot of people have joined and missed what we said. We are, because of we're in the silly month now of New Zealand going on summertime, and then not for another week, Australia going on summertime, and then us staying on for another month, and Europe going off at the end of October. We're just going to leave this show at 2000 UTC. That means it's going to change for us. It'll be 1 o'clock here on the West Coast during our summer, and it'll be noon here for us during our winter. But I can get up an hour earlier. We can sort that out. But for everybody else, you won't have to figure out what our time zone is. You only have to figure out what your own time zone is relative to UTC, GMT, UTC. 2000, and that works, I think, after talking with all of you today, both in before the show and on the show. That works well for those of you in Europe as you go on and off daylight time, and it works well for our friends, the Antipodeans, as the Kiwis and the Aussies go on and off around the calendar. It's so bloody, I don't know why we can't end it, but we're not going to solve that one. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. TFE Live will air at 2000 UTC, the time at which we're airing now. We will leave that year-round, and that's when we'll go to air, and that's all you have to remember, irrespective of what time zone you are in. Julia, your witness.
Yes. Please take this opportunity to like, follow, and share. Makes so much difference.
Yeah. Stingray says he's going to Capri, and he won't care what time it is anywhere. Well, go say hi to the Blue Grotto for us. Excellent move to go to fixed UTC time. Thank you, Marcus Schwentner. He's a smart guy, that guy, Marcus. At least everyone understands that. Yes. Yeah. I was criticized by some people this morning saying, no, only Europeans understand. And I said, no, the rest of the world understands it. It's criticism from an American, by the way. The Antipodeans understand it. You all in Europe understand it. The Brits understand it. And that's why we're going to stick with the fixed UTC. Thanks, Herr Schwentner. Nice to see you. Are you in Athens, Marcus? Are you back in the Deutschland or where? It doesn't matter. But follow us, like, follow, and share. As Julia said, comments are always welcome too, even in replay. And we appreciate the support we get from many of you on Patreon. Become a patron, patreon.com/Sailing Illustrated. Julia, anything else before we wrap this one up?
Not really today.
Emmett is saying the Brits call it GMT. Well, you're behind the times there, John. Come on, everyone else. We even here in well, that's true. Most of the Americans probably call it GMT too, Greenwich Mean, but it's all the same thing.
It is.
Do you know what UTC stands for?
United Time.
Coordinaire. Yeah. Or Universal, Universal Time Coordinaire, UTC. In French.
Thank you.
You really don't care. Back home for a week in Athens, events for the rest of the year. Okay, fly safe, Marcus, stay safe, and all to the rest of you, indeed. We hope you are able to sail. You're not locked down like they are in Oz, and hope you get unlocked sooner than later. Sail fast, sail safe, have fun. Enjoy your weekend. Hope to see you on Tuesday. Ciao for now.